You're not alone. If you need someone to talk to today, please contact Crisis Services Canada by either calling them at 1-833-456-4566 all hours of the day, or you can text them at 45645 at 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, you're not alone, and Crisis Services Canada is here to help. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. I'm your host, Graeme Forsyth. This edition of Coffee with Graeme is brought to you by AETI, Case Financial Group, Evolve Green, Pilot-Mound Hockey Academy, and Toby Hockey. My apologies if we're a bit laggy here today, folks. For some reason, my internet is acting up a bit. You gotta love that. Early on a Tuesday morning, there's nothing better. I kid. I absolutely hate that. But I do love what's coming up in today's edition of Coffee with Graeme. I'm going to be joined by two people in today's show. Cody Wall will be joining the show second in today's episode to break down the past weekend of games we saw here on the network on Off the Wall with Cody. But starting off, MFHL playoffs are among us. They're upon us, as I should say. And Ferdi Nelissen will be joining the show here to talk about the MFHL playoffs. So what's coming up, how the playoffs will be working. He'll also be giving his keys for all 8 teams in order to what they need to do to have success and potentially win it all this season. And then at the end of the interview I have with Ferdi, me and him are going to be giving you a playoff bracket on the MFHL, how we think the playoffs will roll out and how they will play out. So without further ado, let's roll the intro of Coffee with Graeme and bring on Ferdi Nelissen to talk about some good old MFHL, talking about the playoffs here on Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. There he is, Ferdi Nelissen, joining this edition of Coffee with Graeme. Ferdi, a very exciting time around the MFHL right now as playoffs are starting up tonight. Just taking a look at the schedule here, there will be 2 teams in action. Winnipeg Avros facing off against the Interlake Lightning, and the Eastman Selects on the road against the Yellowhead Chiefs. Nice to have you on the show here, Ferdi. But
thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. What's the excitement like? What do you think it's like, knowing that playoffs are upon us here very soon in the MFHL?
Well, I think the girls are really excited, the teams, the coaches. I mean, you got to remember, we haven't had this for a couple of years, and we never finished off the last ones we had. So I'm thinking the players are going to be ready to go. I mean, the nerves will be up and the excitement will be up and they'll be ready. I think it's going to be some hard-fought series. Obviously, there are some favorites, but you have to play the games on the ice. So we'll see what happens. It should be excellent.
Yeah, and you talked about how we haven't seen this playoffs in about 2 years now. I mean, to have it back, it must just be a huge reward, just knowing that the league was able to get through a full regular season this time around and be able to be where we're at now, having MFHL playoffs starting up tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously there were a few road bumps and some games got canceled and some makeup games, but in the end, there was only one game that never got completed in the whole league. So that's unbelievable compared to last year. And, it bodes well for the teams going into the playoffs. There should be no excuses for nobody to be ready.
Let's go into the format now. From my understanding, I think that it is going to be 3 series, like for each round, quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. Will all of them be best 3 out of 5?
Yes, they'll all be 3 out of 5. Yeah, we play 5. That's what we do. We think that's the fairest way. Best out of 5 determine. That's best 2 out of 3. You lose one and you're already up against the wall. So an upset can happen more regularly, but a best of 3 out of 5 is a fair way to go. That's what we've done for years now, and it bodes well. I mean, that's for playing out the way it probably should. Not that upsets don't happen, and we've seen that in our league in the past, especially if somebody gets a hot goaltender.
Yeah, and saw that back when the Eastman Selects won the championship with Kirk and Net. And speaking about upsets, say, I don't know, for example, a team like the Eastman Selects upset the Yellowhead Chiefs in the first round as they're facing off against each other, and all the other top seeds win, like the Avros, the Westman Wildcats, and the Winnipeg Ice. What would that mean for the bracket moving forward? Would the lowest seed left play the highest seed available?
Yeah, it's reseeded. Absolutely. So if somebody pulled off an upset, then it goes from highest to lowest seed. We reseed after the round. So there's, you won't end up getting a disparity in who plays who. It's always going to be reseeded.
Right, makes sense, and that's just the best way to do it, right? I mean, a bunch of leagues around the world do this. I mean, you guys doing the same thing, which could be interesting if we are able to see some upsets. But let's move into it now. 8 teams in the league looking for a championship. Obviously, like you said, there are some favorites, and we're going to start with the number 1 team in the league this season, the Winnipeg Avros. Just looking at what they've been able to do, after having a year off. Like the rest of the league, they won 25 games, only lost 2 in regulation and lost 1 in OT. Obviously, a heavy favorite going into this year's MFHL playoffs. But in your opinion, what do you think it's going to take for this Avros team to have the success they've had all regular season long into the playoffs and to potentially win a championship?
Well, mostly they just got to keep doing what they're doing. They're going into this, I think, on a 14-game winning streak. They got obviously their number 1 line produces about 50% of their offense, but with Collins, Bays, and Weisner. But they were the top scoring team in the league with 122 goals. The top line had 61 of those, but that means there's 61 other goals coming from other players. So they get scoring throughout their lineup. They're balanced. They've got speed. They're good in goal. Jenna Gortson is a top-notch goaltender. One of the best save percentage in the league at .943. Lowest goals against. Now she's got a pretty good team in front of her, but she's a good goalie. They've got solid defense. Led by Kaylee Johnson, Maggie Matani. Honestly, there's not much holes to pick in this team. A lot of people are going to have them as going in as the favorite, obviously, as the number 1 seed. They said they had 51 points. I'm not sure anybody's ever had 51 points in our league before. This might be on record one of the best seasons of all time. Nora Collins set a record for goal scoring, 37. She was 3 points away from tying the record for most points in a season. So, anybody going up against them is going to have to be totally at the top of their game. There's no way you can show up against this team and not be prepared to just, have them come at you with 3 lines.
Yeah, and I mean, everything you said there, it's unbelievable the type of season that Nora Collins has had. I mean, you talk about the defense on this team as well. They only allowed 51 goals against season, and you talk about the defense, but also Jenna Gertson, I mean, has been on top of her game when she's needed to, led the league in wins with a 14-win season and only 1 loss on her record. And this Winnipeg Avros team, they've been building and building throughout the years, have not been able to get over the hump of winning that championship. Had a good chance back in 2019-2020, but we all know how that went, how it got canceled, their series against the Ice. So the Avros definitely looking to get back to that place where they've been 2 seasons in a row prior in the finals. But the Yellowhead Chiefs is one of those teams that has beat them, a team with a lot of depth, one of the best teams in the league, the second best team in the league this season. For Yellowhead, they got all the skill in the world, all the pieces in the world to potentially make a huge run this playoffs. What do you see from them being the keys to their success this playoff time?
Well, Sydney McMullen's going to have to be good in net. She's a Team Manitoba goalie. They're going to have to get outstanding goaltending from her. Their 2 top D, Louise Ferguson and Josie Nichols, are going to have to keep doing what they're doing because the rest of the group is fairly young. And those 2 give that back and a lot of stability. They're both very solid, both moving on to post-secondary next year. The one thing about them is they scored 115 goals, and it's really balanced.
Yeah.
Like they have 6 players that had 20 points or more. Nobody else in the league had that. Not even the Avros. So their offense is pretty balanced, and they get it from a lot of different places, and that makes them hard to play against. And the other side of the way they play is they're relentless on the puck. Derek Tibbetts does a really good job of creating a very aggressive style of hockey that's tough to play against. And the other thing is, unless them and the Avros play in the final, they're going to have home ice, and Shoal Lake is a tough rink to play in. It's the bench, the whole visiting bench is tough to coach out of because of where it's located, so much in your own zone. It's a hard rink to go into. So somebody's going to have to find a way to win a game in there, which is not easy. And you're right. They have lots of skill. They have lots of speed. They play both sides of the puck really well. They're good in net. They'll be very tough, very tough.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to Shoal Lake, one thing that I feel like is infamous there is just the signs they put up for the opponents coming in. I'll always have a blast reading those. So yeah,
I had my name up there a couple times when I was coaching the Caps. It's always very, very good natured, and it's always very competitive, and it adds some character to the whole atmosphere. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, like as a player coming in, I'd be excited to see what is written on the sign. That's for sure. But
it's the first thing you look at when you come into the parking lot.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, Yellowhead, a team that's been very good in the past years, making Final Four, semifinal appearances. They got the championship in their franchise's history. Definitely a team that is suited to do well in the playoffs for sure. And now looking at the other team in the top 3, team that finished 3rd, the Westman Wildcats, finishing with a record of 17-8-2 on the season. One of the best defensive teams in the league by the numbers, 79 goals for in the league. And this team, looking at the spread out and scoring, 18 different goal scorers on their team this season. But for the Westman Wildcats, a well-coached team, a team that's gotten a lot of contributions from many players in the lineup. Grace Glover and Ned has been a very strong goalie this year. But what do you think is going to be the factors, the keys to Westman's success come playoff time?
Well, I think they're going to have to get past their inexperience. They've only got 3 graduating players, and they're key. Especially with McKenna Beard and Kelsey Page on the back end. Those 2 are going to have to really have a good series against whoever they play to take them far. Grace Glover is going to have to be good in goal, and she is. She's got one of the highest save percentages in the league at .933. But they've sort of been stumbling a little bit here at the end. They're young, but they've got lots of speed. And if they can utilize that, that'll be a key. But they've got to be able to willing in playoff hockey. They're what I call a really skilled team, and they like to use their speed. They like to play that open style of game. While in the playoffs, a lot of things get a lot more physical and they get a lot more clogged up. And so they're going to have to get past that, and they're going to have to really battle with their inexperience and be ready for some physical style of hockey. Not sure that's really their forte. Their forte is the skill stuff and the speed. And if they can get that going, they will be very tough to play against, because there's not many teams in the league, if not in Manitoba, that have the total team speed they do. And so they've got to make sure they utilize it, but that could be tough in the playoffs. We'll see how it plays out. But they need to pick up their game compared to what I watched the last 2 or 3 times I watched them.
Yeah, and you speak about the physicality. I'm not sure how many of these penalties were physical, but the opponent they are facing in the first round is the Central Plains Capitals, who led the league in penalty minutes. So it could be an interesting series for sure when those 2 face off. But before we get into Central Plains and the teams before them, I guess another team coming up here, the Winnipeg Ice, a team that lost a lot of experience after last season, a team that was primed to go, ready to potentially get back to the championship last season, a team that had to retool a bit, still have some really good pieces on their team, including Maya Eamon, who's top 3, tied for 3rd in the league in goals with 22, but a team that has finished 4th in the league and is shown to be one of the best defensive teams in the league this season. For the Winnipeg Ice, a team with inexperience for sure, but a team with some good experienced pieces as well. Talk about, their keys to their success come playoff time.
Well, and I keep harping on it, but they're going to have to get good goaltending. Everybody's going to have goaltending in the playoffs. That's going to be very essential. Laura Maleza has 931 save percentage, so she's in the top 4 or 5 in the league that way. And you brought up Eamon, and you know what? They're going to go as far as I think she leads them offensively. They've got some other nice pieces with Bergman and Jacob and Russell and Braun. And those girls will all have to step up in the playoffs. Again, a lot of them won't have a lot of experience in playoff hockey. Now that probably bodes for most of the teams, mind you. But, on the backside, Allie Staples was a Team Manitoba player. Unfortunately, she couldn't play because of injury, but she's got those skills. They've got some solid D back there. They're going to have to play a team game because they're going to come up against a pembina team. They're going to come up against a team that's going to play them very hard in Pembina Valley. So they're going to have to be ready for that style of hockey. Pembina Valley leaves it all on the ice, and they will be ready to play playoff hockey. I guarantee you Dana Bell will have them ready for this.
Yeah, and that's the next team we are going to talk about here. We're going to talk about 4 more teams before we take a commercial break. But the Pembina Valley Hawks finishing their season strong, a 14-14 record on the year, the 5th place team in the league, 84 goals for, 80 goals against. This is a team who has another top goal scorer in the league, and Abby Bordadui, who's been unbelievable this season. They got a lot of depth on this team throughout the lineup. And, their goaltending has been solid this season as well. But, you talked about it, a physical team, a team that leaves it all out on the ice. The keys to Pembina Valley's success come playoff time.
Well, Abby Bordadui is going to be really a key. In my opinion, she's their inspirational leader. She never takes a shift off. And as she goes, they go. When I watch them, and of course, you got Quinn McLaren on the back end, who's arguably one of the top 2 or 3 D in the league, and she's going to have to be really good, to lead that fairly young D core. But in net, they're going to have to figure it out. I mean, I don't know if Dana's figured out who his number 1 is. They've been playing better lately, but they also have had some times where goaltending has struggled a bit. But if they get some goaltending, Annika Braun could be a big factor in this series because she's such a physical player. She's hard for D-cores to handle, and that's the one thing, because you can't leave it all on Abby's plate to look after. And the player that I think that really has to get going for them, who missed part of the season, and really if she can step up in the playoffs, is Maya Pierce. And if Pierce can get going, that gives them 3 solid forwards up front and a little bit more depth. She's been coming on lately since she's got back after Christmas. And so the key to them is to get a little bit more balance than they've had. And, of course, find somebody that can step up and stop the pucks on a consistent basis for them. Their goalies have been a little bit roller coaster ride. One game they're good. One game the next they're letting in 5 or 6. So when they're good, they're really good. But in the playoffs, you got to be consistent. You can't have that roller coaster up and down. So for them, I think it's going to be all about finding that secondary scoring because everybody's going to target Abby for sure. If you're coaching against them and you don't target her, I don't know what you're thinking. So they're going to have to get something out of the other players up front. And like I say, Quinn McLaren's going to have to be a big-time leader for them on the back end.
Yeah, the team captain in her senior season. Yep. And I will say this, there has been times where this goaltending has struggled for this team, but at the same time, there has been times where, they've been left out to dry in front. There's some mismanagement with the puck, and those are some things I think they'll have to eliminate against a very
You're right. Defense and goals against isn't just a goalie thing. It's about playing well in your own end as a unit, and making sure you're defending the right way on the right side of the puck, inside out. And if you can do that in the playoffs and limit your quality scoring chances against, you'll be successful.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to take a commercial break here, Ferdi. Coming up, we're going to talk about the three other teams that we haven't talked about already, the Central Plains Capitals, the Eastman Selects, and the Interlake Lightning. But we'll also be unveiling our playoff brackets as well in the next part of this interview with you, Ferdi. Stick with me and Ferdi Nelissen on this edition of Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. I'll be right back with Ferdi in just a moment.
Why go solar? Solar is better than ever. Our revolutionary design and inverter equipment with the latest in solar panel technology for the ultimate in-home and business security. That's right, I said security. Grid security and security of your home are linked. Fortify your future today with a battery backup system. No maintenance, quiet running. Did you know in Manitoba, grid-connected, off-grid, and battery backup systems are 100% right off in the year you purchase for any company or farm? Do you want to back up your internet, keep your tills running, and the lights on? We can install a system that is right for you with battery backup fully capable of taking on all those essential loads and keeping you running. When you call our experts at Evolve Green, ask about getting your free energy audit today. Call or email today to find out what system works best for you. 1-866-5EVOLVE or support@evolvegreen.ca. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.evolvegreen.ca.
Welcome back with you with Graeme on ASTV Productions. Ferdi Nelissen joining the show here on this Tuesday morning to talk some MFHL playoffs. The MFHL starting their 2021-2022 playoffs tonight. Two games will be played. 4 teams will be in action. A very exciting time in one of the best AAA leagues out there, the MFHL. But we are going to continue talking about the teams, their keys to their success, and your opinion of what they need to do to win a championship. And for Central Plains, that's the next team up. They finished 6th in the standings. They finished with a 9-14-5 record, 63 goals for, 85 goals against. I mean, you look at these goaltenders, really good seasons by the save percentage numbers.
The best combo in the league.
Yeah, at least Denbo had 2 shutouts up front. I mean, Danica Botterill has been the story and had a really strong finish to her season, finishing 2nd in the league in goals. And with that being a goal per game player, but for Central Plains, they'll have some tough competition. Westman to open up their playoffs. What are going to be the keys to Central Plains, their success in the playoffs if they want to make a run?
Well, number one, goaltending. It's been good for them all year. Annika Morose is 2nd in the whole league and with a save percentage of .936, and that's on a team that gave up over 1,000 shots on net. So I mean, and Elise Dembo, who's only a U15, had a save percentage of 911. So they're really good. And you mentioned Botterill. Well, they've put a line together with Botterill, Bell, and Madison Luke, and those girls have been on fire. And really tough to play against. Their last game against Westman, they beat them 4-1. So that gives them some confidence going in. They beat Yellowhead on the last weekend. They did lose a tough game in overtime to Interlake. But they've been also getting some secondary scoring from the line of Bryn Tosh, Jada Clayton, and Meta Fletcher, and Phoenix Fries has been contributing offensively. So they're getting some depth in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season. They found some depth in their scoring. They're going to have to, in my opinion, find a way not to give up 40 shots a night in the playoffs. Right. They are a physical team. That may be tough for Westman. They do play a physical style. They're not scared to take the penalties. They're pretty good on their penalty kill. Now, you don't want to be during the playoffs always on your – if you want to be on a specialty team, it's usually the power play. You don't want to be killing penalties all night against a skilled team. That sort of opens the door for them. But the way they play is hard. They forecheck hard. Danica Botterill is second in the league in goals with 23. She makes things happen. She scores highlight reel goals. She can find a way to get the puck to the net. She creates, and obviously teams are going to look at her and target her. So the key for them is to keep getting that secondary scoring they've been getting, because that makes it tough on a team to focus on her. If you're getting scoring from your second, third lines, you're going to have success. But for them, it's about D zone, keeping the puck to the outside and not giving up the quality chances they have for a big part of the year that they've seemed to have gotten a little bit more under control in the last 2 weeks. That's the key for them, I think, in the playoffs.
And that's huge because the last 2 weeks, huge for them to be building this confidence and winning. Yeah. They have been winning, of course, a tough loss to Interlake to end the season. But
they've got some vets on the back end too, Graham. They've got 3 third-year D in Rumpley, Matthews, McCauley, and Duncan. So those 3 girls are going to have to step up and be at the top of their game. At times, I think they've struggled a little bit. But if those 3 can play up to their capabilities, that's quite a bit of depth of experience with having 3 third years back there.
Right. It will be interesting to see, what Central Plains will be able to do in that first round against Westman. Let's move on to the 7th place team in the league, the Eastman Selects. 6-20-2 on the season. That's their record. 53 goals for, 103 against. This is a team that has no doubt struggled. They faced a lot of shots against. They, the offense is spread out up front, 13 different goal scorers, but those goals not coming in high quantities, as I guess you could put it that way. But for Eastman, they're in tough playing Yellowhead in the first round. Having to go to Shoal Lake is going to be tough. But for Eastman, if they are going to potentially make a run, what do you think needs to be the case for this to happen?
Well, somebody has to step up in that. Worst save percentage in the league as a pair at .875. That just won't do it in the playoffs. And I'm not blaming all the goalies totally, although Eastman shots on goal, they gave up .721, which is in the middle of the pack in the league. So the save percentages and making some saves, they've got not a really experienced defense core, which is going to make it tough as well. Their scoring is limited to, 1 or 2 players. They're in really tough when you score 53 and you give up 103. That's hard to turn around going into the playoffs, and they really didn't finish on a great note. So like I said, anything can happen in the playoffs, but they're going to have to find a whole new level to their game, especially when it comes to finding secondary scoring. Well, Labossiere can't be scoring every goal for them, and so. Janique is a tough player and she plays hard all the time, but you got to find some secondary scoring and you got to find a way to keep the puck out of the net in the playoffs. This could be a tough round for them. Especially, this is the biggest travel anybody has to do too. These players are 3.5 to 4 hours from each other's rinks, so that's gonna play on both teams. But at the end of the day, I truly believe they're in very tough. I would not see an upset in this round personally.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you there. But hey, crazy things have happened
Yeah.
before. It is gonna take a lot though, and I was wrong on that. I didn't look at the full goalie stats for the teams in terms of shots against, and yeah, you're right. Eastman, middle of the pack in that category in terms of shots given up.
Yep.
But let's go into a team that finished the season very strong in their last 2 games. Talking about the Interlake Lightning. I mean, a team that obviously has had its struggles this season, a team that, had a new coaching staff this year, but really good goaltenders in Caitlin Dorsch and Rachel Halderson. Obviously the offensive numbers, not the greatest, not at all, actually. When you look at it, they only have 34 goals for, they have 102 against, but a team with a really tough matchup coming up against the Winnipeg Avros. Going to take a lot to beat them, maybe more than a lot for Interlake. But Interlake, if they are able to somehow, make a run in the playoffs, what do you think it's going to come down to? Let me guess. Goaltending is the biggest thing for them.
Yep. There's your PhD showing up. They if they don't get good goaltending from the two, Dorsch and Halderson, they're in trouble. They're in trouble to start with because they've scored 34 goals and Nora Collins has scored 37. I mean, they don't generate a lot of shots to the net, a lot of offense against the top teams in the league. And you're right, they did finish strong. And I will say this: every game I've gone and watched them when I've been scouting this year for Hockey Manitoba, that team never quits. There's no quit in that team. They play hard. But they just don't have a lot of offensive talent. They work hard, but if they don't get the goaltending, and it's going to come down to those two players, period, where they're going to find scoring now against a team like the Avros is, well, it would be shocking to me if they did. I give those two goalies a lot of credit. They've faced well over 1,100 shots. And to have a team save percentage of .917 is just outstanding. They've been as good as anybody in the league in the net. And then, like we say, goaltending is key in the playoffs. You just still have to be able to find a way to limit the scoring chances. I mean, even if with a 90% save percentage, if you're giving up 50 shots, you're going to give up 5 goals. Yeah. So, I mean, there's no other way to say it, but they're probably in over their heads a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having strong goaltending is so key in the playoffs, like we've seen. But, it takes a whole team. And unfortunately, this team, like you said, gives up a lot of shots, way too many. And they don't put many shots on net and don't have many goals. And no proof is in the pudding there with only 34 on the season. But those are the keys from Ferdi for all 8 teams in the league for them to potentially make a run. We're now going to go into our playoff brackets, our predictions for these playoffs. Will I get most of these wrong, most likely, but I'm hoping to get a few right. I'm hoping to get my championship winner right. But Ferdi, gotta ask this question first off: what playoff series in the first round in the league out of the 4 are you most excited for?
Oh, I'm always excited about all of it, but I really think the Central Plains Westman series and the PV Ice series could be the 2 most interesting. I think those are the 2 likely spots that, I mean, a 4 or 5 series, if the number 5 team, wins the series, it's not exactly a major upset. And, they weren't separated by a ton in the regular season. Central Plains could have easily been higher than they were. They lost the most overtime games in the league. 5. So, and it came right down to the last 2 games, whether they could possibly catch and pass Pembina Valley for 5th place.
Yep.
And they've played Westman tough. And like I said, they're a physical team, and Westman's a young, skilled team, and that could be a matchup that works for them. So, and Pembina Valley and the Ice, I think, are are really quite comparable. I think I would give the edge a little bit to the ice, especially in net. But you still have to go out and play the game. And I like the leadership that the Hawks have in McLaren and Bordeaux, and not that the ice don't. That'll be a tough series. If I could see any series going 5, that might be one of them.
Yeah, it's going to be a heck of a series. That's the one that I feel like will, but like all of them will be entertaining. But I feel like this one has, the most likeliness of it going to 5 games. And I think a 5-game series battle between these two teams would only be fitting because they're even in the season series, they've beaten each other the same amount of times. Yep. 2 wins for the Ice and 2 wins for Pembina Valley. But let's get into that series a bit later, and I'll give my winner there, of course. But let's go into the Avros and the Lightning. In this one, Ferdi, I'm seeing the Avros cruising through this one. I mean, you got Nora Collins with 37 goals. That top line with Kalen Weisner and Courtney Bays as well. I mean, this is a team with a lot of depth. One of the best, the best defensive team in the league by the numbers. I think Jenna Gertson will be on the top of her game. Janina Karitonovich, not too sure how much ice she's going to see, but she's been a good number 2 this year for the Avros. And this team doesn't give up many shots either. And you look at the Lightning, just leading goal scorer, assist getter is just looking at it. I'm drawing. I did not write.
Jenny Christensen, I think.
Christensen, yeah, that's who it is. I mean, she's only got 13 points on the season with only 6 goals. Caitlin Dorsch and Halderson are going to have to be phenomenal, but overall, the Avros will just be too much, and they'll advance in this one.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to argue with you over that one. You know what? It's and Courtney Bays has had a good season. I thought she might score a few more points, but you got to remember the last time we had any kind of playoffs that went 2 rounds, we did hand out a playoff MVP, and the name of that person was Courtney Bays. She picks up her game when in big games. I mean, she picks it up. So she's obviously their leader up front, even if Collins has, the points and the goals. I think Bays is their inspirational leader. She's their leader throughout the team, and they're deep. I did this won't go. I'm calling this one in 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. And going back to Courtney Bays, I mean, she's in her final year. She wants this championship as much, or if not more than anybody in the league. She's had a chance to get to the finals before, of course, winning playoff MVP, and devastating to her and the whole team that they weren't even able to play that. But she is motivated, especially coming off of that huge injury that she had in the final game of last season. Should be interesting to see how Courtney Bays is able to elevate her game for the Avers throughout their playoffs. But the number 2 team, the Yellowhead Chiefs versus the Eastman Selects, and I'm thinking it's going to be another sweep here, Ferdi. I mean, you look at the Chiefs, 6 goal scorers with at least 10 on the season. Darby Poole, the team with 21 goals. I mean, you talked about how many 20-point getters they got. Louise Ferguson highlights the offense from the back end.
And she's the leading point getter for defense in the whole league.
Yeah, and
in my opinion, a top 2D in our league, and they're deep. And I agree. I say this is a 3-game sweep for the Chiefs, especially if nothing changes in net for Eastman, and they you can't be giving up a goal on every 6 shot. That's basically what they're doing right now. So unless somebody steps up and gives them a little bit better goaltending, and I just think Yellowhead is way too deep, way too balanced for Eastman to handle.
Yeah, not many holes in Yellowhead's game, very similar to the Winnipeg Avers. And you look at it, Louise Ferguson not only leads the defense in the league in points, but also is top 3 in assists in the league. With 2. You got 2 goaltenders with Sydney McMullen and Natalie Rampton, too, have been very solid this season. And Sydney McMullen also has 4 shutouts. And this is a team that also, doesn't give up many shots either. But yeah, I'm calling this one a sweep. And we'll move on now into the 3 versus 6 matchup. And I got to tell you, even though Westman has a 3-1 record against Central Plains on the season series, Central Plains beat them in the last game out. Central Plains has been coming on as of late. Talk about goaltending, physicality. I'm going to go with the Central Plains Capitals winning this series in 5 games.
This is kind of a sentimental one for me. You got to remember, I did coach the Caps for 13 years, but if there's going to be an upset, this is one of the places that it's going to be. I think that first game is going to be critical, and it's not that I think Central Plains has to go in there and win that first game, but I think they have to make sure that it's a competitive game. They don't want this young team building confidence. Because that would be, you got players like Callie Rice and Anderson and Franklin and those girls. Those young players, if they build some confidence, then they could be in trouble. But I'm actually thinking Central Plains could win this in 4.
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if it went either way. But right now, the way Central Plains finished the season, they're playing their best hockey of the year. Since their showcase, actually, when I thought they had a couple of really solid games, this is probably the best hockey in the last 10 to 14 days that they've played all year long, and that's what you want going into the playoffs. And they just not that Grace Glover isn't a good goaltender; she's Team Manitoba, but they've been getting outstanding goaltending, and I think they'll probably run with their older vet goalie Annika Moroz to start with for sure, but. If they get that goaltending, then it'll be up to Botterill, Bell, and Haluk to keep the team rolling offensively, because they've actually started to score more goals throughout the whole lineup in the last 2 weeks. That's going to be key.
Yeah, and you look at the numbers from the whole season, the scoring does drop off after Botterill, but it's a team with 13 different goal scorers and a team, like you said, that has been coming on. And I think that Botterill is going to be a game changer in this series. I think that she's got that aspect to her game. I mean, Annika Moroz, Elise Denbo, I think will show up. And Westman they got the most spread out scoring out of any team in the league, and Grace Glover has been great this season. It's just I think that Westman has had some woes late here in the season. I think Central Plains is inspired and playing with house money too, being the underdog in this series. I think that honestly the pressure is on Westman to win this series, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's Westman got off to the hottest start in the whole year. They were out first place for quite a bit to start the season. They got off to a great start, and it's been a little bit of a rough ride the last month or so. Some of that had to do with injuries and stuff, and I think they're healthy now, which could help. But I think this is a tough matchup for them, and I think it's a matchup Central Plains likes.
Yeah, it will be an exciting series for sure, along with the others, and I think that this series right here is going to be a thriller. The Winnipeg Ice versus Pembina Valley Hawks, 2 teams that have played each other tight this season. I'm going to roll with the Ice in this series. I was almost at a coin flip, but I think that the Hawks obviously have the depth up front, the scoring, and Abby Bordedwy is a fantastic player. I just feel like in terms of some of their defensive woes this season, some of their mismanagements with the puck, that can happen in playoffs. They might have the physicality over the ice, but I do like Laura Melissa a lot. She was outstanding in the game. I saw her against the Pembina Valley Hawks when they played in Carmen. But I think that Maya Eamon is going to step up here. I think that Eugene will have his girls ready to go. Same with Dana Bell, but I think at the end of the day, I think that I think that the Ice will win this series. And they are also one of the most disciplined teams in the league, the most disciplined team in the league, as they've taken the least penalty minutes. Yeah. And Pembina Valley, their PK has been great, but they've been taking a lot of penalties, especially in the 2022 portion of the season. That can't happen in playoffs, especially when games are going to be so tight, in my opinion. So I'm running with the Ice in 5 games in this series to move on.
Yeah, and I think the Ice will come out on top. I think it's going to be a tough series. I agree with you. I think the Ice when you get past the top forward for each team in Eamon and Bordeaux, I think the ice are deeper with Bergman, Jacob, Russell, Braun. I think they're just deeper. They have more depth than the Hawks do. You still have to play the game, but I think when it comes to the teams being prepared, I mean, Eugene Kaminsky and Dana Bell are both experienced coaches. I don't think that'll be they're both going to have their teams ready to play. That's for sure. The ice were 2 years ago were the team that the Avros were supposed to play in the final. And there's some players on this team that think there's some unfinished business too. So I think they're motivated. I just like their depth throughout the lineup and their speed a little bit better than I like the Hawks. The key will be whether they can match their physicality. And I think they can. I don't think the ice will shy away from that at all, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's going to be a thriller of a series, like I've said. It could go either way, honestly. Yeah. I mean, these two teams so evenly matched throughout the season in terms of the season series.
Well, you look at goals for. One scored 84, one scored 79. Goals against, one scored 65, the other one 80. I think the Hawks, you hit it, you talked about it a little bit before this. They're going to have to figure a way to be a little bit better defensively. Laura Melissa gives the ice a real solid goaltender, whereas the Hawks, I don't think have ever determined if they have a number one this year. And maybe by design, but when I was talking to Dana Bell, I think he's been waiting for one of them to step up and become their number one. And they just, like I say, it's been a roller coaster ride for them in net, and you can't have that in the playoffs. They're going to have somebody step up and be really solid.
Yeah, for sure. You need that distinct number one at this point of the season, and it's something that I think Pembina Valley has two good goaltenders, but like you said, not a goaltender that has separated themselves from the pack of the two. But let's move into semifinals now. It would be the Winnipeg Avros matching up against the Central Plains Capitals, and the Yellowhead Chiefs matching up against the Winnipeg Ice. Starting with the Avros, I think that they'll be too much for Central Plains to handle. I think that the Winnipeg Avros will, just looking at them from top to bottom, as good as Central Plains has been playing as of late and as good as their goaltending has been, I think that the Avros will come through with the experience that they have. And I think that they'll make it tough on Central Plains. And I think that, that top line for the Avros will step up. The girls will do their job there. And I think Jenna Gerdson will come to play in that series and they'll move on to the finals.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think the Capitals could possibly take a game if they get some goal, if one of their two goalies does what they've been doing, which is absolutely being a brick wall in net. They could possibly take a game, but I do not see this series going the way of the Capitals if that's how it plays out with the Capitals moving forward. I would say that the Avros move on to the final.
It would be their third straight finals appearance for the Winnipeg Avros. If they are able to make it to the finals, we'll have to wait and see if that happens. But the Yellowhead Chiefs will be matching up against the Winnipeg Ice the way that we've predicted it here, Ferdi. Obviously the Winnipeg Ice have been impressive this season for all the pieces that they've lost. Their goaltending has been good. Their offense has been, solid too, and their defense has been really good as well. But I think in this series, I think that Yellowhead will be too much for the Winnipeg Ice. I just look at the depth up front, the skill up front, the talent for Yellowhead, as well as their defense and their goaltending as well. I like them a bit better than the Winnipeg Ice in the series. Well, I do like them better than them. And two great coaches are going to be going at it. Derek Tibbetts, I think, like you said, with that relentless style that he has with these girls on the puck, with the experience that Yellowhead has, I think that they will move past to the finals and set up a 1-versus-2 matchup in the MFHL championship this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't think it'll be a sweep. But I think in the end, the Chiefs are going to be a little too much for the Ice to handle, especially like I say, they are so tough to play in Shoal Lake. That's a tough rink to go in and win in. And if you don't have home ice advantage, you're going to have to find a way to win one game in there. And that's a real tough chore. I don't think people realize how hard it is to win a game in Shoal Lake. It's arguably the biggest home ice advantage in the league, in my opinion. So I agree. I think it'll be a 1-2 final, just based on the quality of those two teams, the seasons they've had, their coaching staffs. Like Ashley Van Aglen is, we haven't mentioned Ashley yet, and she's a veteran of these wars. I mean, she's an outstanding coach. Derek Tibbetts, he challenges anybody that I coached against Tibby twice in the finals. Once I came out on top. The next year I came out on the wrong end. And the one thing about Derek and Ashley, they make you coach as the game goes on. They don't just stand around and wait for their team to do things. Yeah. If they think they need to make changes, they make them on the fly, and they make you coach against them. So if you're not willing to and ready to adapt to what they're doing on the fly as coaches, I think that'll be an outstanding final series.
Yeah, and you can argue that these are two of the top coaches in the league, right? Just what they've been able to do, the consistency that they've shown. Ashley Van Aglen, I forget the exact name of the award she won, but Coach of the Year in all of Canada. That was correct.
Yeah, female coach. Yep, she was acknowledged as one of the top female coach in the country. So, she's got lots of experience. They both have tons of experience. They both know what it takes to win. So their teams will be prepared, and they know each other. I mean, that's the one thing going into this. There's no surprises when you play each other. You know what you're going to look at. You know who you got to stop. So it's who executes and who does the best job that's going to come out on top.
I'm just taking a look at the season series. The first game that the Avros and Yellowhead played was actually the second game of the Avros season, where they lost 2-0 in Shoal Lake to Yellowhead. You take a look at the second game that these teams played against each other. The Winnipeg Avros ended up coming out on top 2-1, and that game was played in Shoal Lake as well. And then you look at the other game that was played with the Avros and Yellowhead. It was a 4-1 win for the Avros this past weekend in their home.
Should have been one more game.
Seven Oaks Arena.
They would have played each other 4 times.
Yeah, I'm looking here. I
thought it was 3-1 for the Avros in the series. I could be wrong.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just blind. Oh yes. They also won 4-3 in overtime back on.
So November. When you look at those games, they were all relatively tight, right? I mean, so it's like I said, these are the top 2 teams in the league. They're the top 2 offensive teams in the league. They're 2 of the best defensive teams in the league. It's everything you would expect to see in a final. And whoever executes the best is probably going to come out on top. I still like the Avros as the number 1 team in the league. And unless they stumble, I see them as the 2022 MFHL and AAA Hockey Manitoba champions. That's my call.
Yeah, I'm also rolling with the Avros. I never said it on air, but this is the team that I would have picked at the start of the season to win it all, and they've lived up to all the expectations, and you could even argue they've exceeded it. And this is a team that has had success against the Yellowhead Chiefs in Shoal Lake, even though the games have been close. This is going to be a bloodbath, this whole series. I think that this series has the makings of going to, I mean, you'd like to say game 7, but game 5 in this case. And I think that it's just going to come down to, like you said, execution. 2 very well-coached teams. And they got, I think they're 2 of the most talented teams in the league. I think that it's going to take players stepping up like Nora Collins for the Avros, Courtney Bays as well. I think that Janet Gertson throughout the season has shown that when she has to, she hasn't made the most saves, faced the most shots, but has made the key clutch saves when she's needed to. And talking to Ashley Van Aglen most recently, she faced 2 penalty shots in the same weekend and stopped both. I mean, this team, I think, is ready to go for a championship. run. This is something that they've wanted, and something that really is, you could argue, is the only thing missing from Ashley Van Hagelen's resume as a coach. And I think that it's a special group that will end up winning it all this year against the Elad Chiefs in a very close final series.
Yeah, like I said, Derek Tibbetts will have. Derek won't look past any series, but if they do get to the finals like we expect, Derek will have them prepared and have a plan to play against the Avros. He'll know what he has to do, and it will be a physical, hard series. And if the teams don't come ready to play, which both these coaches will have their teams ready to play, I don't doubt that for a second. But I think it'll be an interesting playoff season. I'm looking forward to going and scouting some of these games. The caliber of play this year has been really tight. Even like we talked about Interlake earlier. I mean, Interlake lost a lot of tough games where they just couldn't find a way to score, and their goaltending did keep them in it. But still, as long as you're within a goal or two heading into the third period, you've always got a chance. And like I said, the league has been very tight, close games, and I don't expect a lot of surprises from anybody. We know how they play. It's now, like we talked about, can you execute and can you limit your mistakes?
Yeah, it's going to be, a heck of a ride, these playoffs. It's going to be exciting. Going to be interesting to see how our playoff picks turn out here, Ferdi. But, potentially 7 straight days of playoff hockey here coming up for teams in the league. Only 1 day of break after these 7 days, and then there's more games played, but a lot of playoff hockey, a lot to be decided here in the next little while in the MFHL. But Ferdi Nelissen joining me on the show here today to talk about the playoffs in the MFHL, breaking it all down. Ferdi, always great to have you on the show. Thanks for
pleasure
coming on. And
thanks for all the promotions you do for the league and for female hockey. I love it.
Oh, of course, we appreciate hearing that as well, Ferdi. That you guys are enjoying it because we're it's all about promoting the great leagues here, and the MFHL is one of them. So I'm sure we'll talk again here in the future about the MFHL and how the playoffs are going when we do talk next. But you take care, Ferdi, and
you too.
The playoffs.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. And that was long, folks. But there was a lot to talk about. Those are my full playoff picks. That's how I see the playoffs rolling out. Will I get a series or two wrong? Most likely. It always seems to happen when I make predictions. But I'm just excited to see how it all rolls out here in the MFHL playoffs. Very exciting time of the year, and playoff hockey is back in the MFHL. So if you guys would like me to do a playoff prediction for the MMJHL, I don't know. I haven't been able to watch much of the league that year, but I could have some insider on or some expert from the MMJHL to come on the show and give his playoff predictions. But let me know in the comments, and also let us know if you enjoyed today's edition of Coffee with Graeme, that segment with Ferdi Nelissen, a pretty long one. But we aren't done here on Coffee with Graeme on this Tuesday morning. Coming up after the commercial break, Cody Wall is going to be joining the show here on Off the Wall with Cody to break down the past 3 games that we saw in the past week on ASTV that were featured here on our network for broadcast. So stay tuned, folks. And then, coming up after the commercial break, Cody Wall joins the show here on Coffee with Graeme on ASTV. It's Cody Wall on this week's edition of Off the Wall with Cody here on Coffee with Graeme. Cody, nice to see you on this Tuesday morning, man. Always great to have you on the show here on our Tuesday morning episodes of Coffee with Graeme. But how are you doing on this Tuesday, man? Ready to talk about 3 games that we saw on the network this past week and on the weekend?
Yeah, as always, good to be on here on Tuesday mornings, and excited to break down some games that were on the network this weekend.
Yeah, and we were supposed to have 4 games, but due to the weather on Sunday, the big snowstorm that was happening on from Sunday morning to Sunday afternoon, snow ended up stopping where I was at in Winnipeg, but ended up canceling the Pilot-Mound Hockey Academy U18 prep female Buffaloes game, as they were supposed to take on the RINK Hockey Academy Winnipeg U18 prep female team in their second matchup of the weekend. But let's go back to Wednesday first. There were 2 games last Wednesday on the network, starting off with the Pilot-Mound Buffaloes U15 prep male team taking on the RINK Hockey Academy U15 prep male team. The RINK Hockey Academy Winnipeg team ended up winning that game 9-0. They scored 3 goals in the first period. They extended their lead to 7-0 in the second and added 2 more in the third for a 9-0 final. They outshot the Buffaloes 63-16 in that game. But just talk about that performance from RHA, their ability to be able to handle the Buffaloes the way they did last Wednesday.
Yeah, they really they came out firing on all cylinders, and they had contributions from many guys throughout their lineup, including Matthew Gard. He had a sweet kind of bounce pass off the backboards behind the Pilot-Mound net to pass to the first goal scorer in Jack Bilous. And, another guy who had a pretty notable game was number 13 in Graham Jones. He managed to pick up a hat trick as well as adding an assist to make it 4 points. So throughout the RHA lineup, definitely was some offense coming, and some guys who maybe were feeling it a bit on Wednesday.
Yeah, and there were 6 different goal scorers in this game. 2 of them were defensemen, as you mentioned. Graham Jones, not only did he have the assist, he had a hat trick as well. Wyatt Stinton also had a notable game, had 2 goals for himself in that game. Don't remember off the top of my head, just looking at the stats, if he had an assist in that game. But when a team like RHA, a team that's already so skilled as they are, when they're able to get contributions from not only one but many different players in this game on the scoreboard, must be huge when they're able to do that. Being able to get that offensive contributions from everybody.
Yeah, definitely. It can definitely bolster the confidence from guys who maybe don't maybe get those same offensive touches when in a closer game. Sometimes when a game does get that way, you can kind of experiment a little bit with some schemes on both sides for both coaches, Pilot-Mound and RHA, just to kind of once a game's a little bit past a certain point, you can kind of maybe feel a little freer to try some things you wouldn't normally in a closer game, like I said.
As mentioned, the shots were 63-16 in favor of RHA in that game. Kane Reed was in net for the Buffaloes. He made 54 saves on those 63 shots that the Buffaloes faced. But just talk about the Buffaloes overall, just defensively as a team, giving up as many shots as they did. What do you feel came down to that in this game for RHA, for them to get that many shots as they did on the Buffaloes?
Yeah, RHA really looked like they were moving the puck well, really cycling it around the perimeter, looking for kind of that good opportunity to pull a defenseman out of position to maybe find an open guy in the slot. And, they were able to create a lot of open space by using their quick feet to get to pucks first and win those puck battles.
Keen Reed in this game, obviously getting the loss on his record in the loss column and his record for the season. But making 54 saves on 63 shots, not too bad, even though he let in 9. Something you don't like as a goaltender, but obviously big for Keen to stop the 54 shots that he did on those 63 shots that he faced. Talk about the performance from Keen Reed in net last Wednesday.
Yeah, you definitely can't fault the goaltender when he's facing that much rubber. Definitely know he did his fair share in the game. Really was kicking and constantly trying to battle to not let that next one in, and didn't look like he had let the game kind of get to his head, or the moment get to his head. Once the Buffalo started getting behind, didn't look like he was giving up on plays and let any soft ones in as the game progressed.
Yeah, and just taking a look at the schedule, just looking at it, RHA, they've played the Buffaloes many times already this season, and in all of their games, it's been all blowout wins for them. Obviously, a team that's given this Buffaloes U15 squad a lot of fits this season, and a team that gave them a lot of fits on the PK when the Buffaloes had the power play. The Buffaloes went 0 for 6 on the power play last Wednesday. Obviously, not a pretty number for any team to go 0 for 6 on the power play, but talk about how the Buffaloes power play was lacking in this game, but also how RHA was able to have a solid PK against them.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, they were really good on the 5-on-5 when cycling the puck. That point kind of was doubled on the power play. Once they did have that man advantage, they were able to utilize that time and space, and were able to put up a power play goal on their second attempt. I believe it was on the second attempt they were able to get that power play goal. But Pilot-Mound looked like at times they were chasing the RINK Hockey Academy, and not finding themselves in the right defensive positions at points on the power play, and kind of had areas of their penalty kill box that looked like could have used a little bit of help, a little bit more active sticks, and a little bit maybe tighter box, trying to keep things to the outside, or limit the opportunities, cutting off some of the angles on the RHA power play. Definitely something that Pilot-Mound will look to work on a bit as the season does progress here.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, a power play goal for RHA in this game, as they went 1 for 3 on the power play compared to the Buffaloes 0 for 6 on the power play. But for the Buffaloes, this hasn't been the first time that this U15 team has been blown out this season, and in some games, in some instances, they've been able to bounce back and give a really solid effort the next game, making it a close one against opponents. But for the Buffaloes now, this is their second straight big loss in a row. They lost 14-0 the game before against the Northern Alberta Extreme Hockey team. Of course, a 9-0 loss last Wednesday against RHA, as we've been talking about. So for the Buffaloes, getting blown out 2 games in a row, where do you think they go from here, Cody? How do you think they are looking to respond next game?
Yeah, just kind of thinking back to some of the game notes from that Wednesday game, I do remember you, Graeme, talking about how Gordy had mentioned there were some notable players out of the lineup there, that a majority of their centers were going to be out of the game, and we're going to be having some guys maybe playing some positions they didn't normally. And sometimes when you have guys who are playing positions they're not normally accustomed to, sometimes you can have that miscommunication on the ice and cause for some of these bigger offensive games against your opponent.
The Buffaloes, this U15 team, will be back in action tomorrow on the network against the RINK Hockey Academy at 4:30 p.m. at Blackjack Stewart Arena. Let's move into some female hockey here now, Cody. Going over to the Saskatchewan female U18 AAA Hockey League, talking about the Swift Current Wildcats and Regina Rebels. A very close game, 3-2 win for the Regina Rebels. Regina was up 2-0 after the first period. It was a scoreless second period for both teams, and then Swift Current scored 2 off the bat, back-to-back goals in the third period to tie it up, but then Regina shortly after answered back with a goal of their own to win that game. Ended up being the game-winning goal from Alexis Petford, leading point getter, goal scorer, and assist leader in the Saskatchewan female U18 AAA Hockey League to put Regina over the top 3-2. But the shots were pretty even in this game, 34-33 in favor of Regina. The Rebels outshot the Wildcats 13-5 in the first period, but then the Wildcats outshot the Rebels 12-11 in the second and 16-10 in the third period. Peyton Schlamp got the win in net for Regina. Carly Leonard got the loss for Swift Current. But going back to it, just an entertaining game that ended with Regina picking up the 1-goal win last Wednesday.
Yeah, and these two teams seem to always have these close games, these 1-goal games, when we do end up talking about Swift Current and Regina, as we have on a couple of times throughout this year, Graeme. But yeah, these two teams tightly matched, and they lived up to the billing on Wednesday there with a back and forth affair. Like you said, Regina able to kind of pull it out late in the third period to put them ahead with that goal from Alexis Petford. And yeah, just two evenly matched teams. Really hard to see who was able to get the edge there, but Regina managing to pull it out.
Yeah, and a close game with 2 of the top 3 teams in the league, Regina being the first place team, Swift Current being number 3 in the league in terms of their ranking. And Swift Current has had success against this Regina Rebels team, and yet again another close game against these two teams once again last Wednesday. But talking about the goal scorers in this game, already mentioned Alexis Petford, but Ali Gerard opened the scoring on the power play for the Rebels. Megan Hayers scored the second goal for the Rebels. Jessica Buffard on the Swift Current Wildcats side of things made it a 2-1 game as she scored the first goal for the Wildcats, and then Lakin Swan ended up scoring the tying goal for the Wildcats in this game. But 2 really good offensive teams, showing that the depth came through once again for both of them, as there were 5 different goal scorers.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, an offensive game, but the defense definitely played a part in keeping it a fairly low scoring affair, with only letting 5 goals between the two teams. Both goaltenders had a very good night for themselves, and really had a good game for themselves.
Yeah, Peyton Schlamp, of course, in net for the Regina Rebels, and Carly Leonard was in net for Swift Current. Just go more into depth about these 2 goaltenders, their performances. Starting off with Peyton Schlamp in this game, just, her ability to stop the shot she was able to, and having, her team come out with a 3-2 win in this one.
Yeah, definitely. She was able to shut the door there, especially in the third period once Swift Current was starting to get it revved up there. She was able to shut the door after Swift Current got 2 quick goals in the third period, and close it out the rest of the way after Alexis Petford was able to put them ahead and, just shut her down.
Going over to Swift Current side now for the Wildcats, of course, Carly Leonard has been one of the most impressive goaltenders in the league this season as a rookie, being at the top of the league in statistics such as wins. Let's take a look at it here. Taking a look at Carly's wins this season. Taking a look at the goaltender stats. Yeah, Carly is second in wins in the league at this point, with 11 wins on the season as a rookie. Absolutely phenomenal season for her as a young goaltender in this league, but she wasn't good enough to backstop her team to a win in that game, but made 30 saves on 33 shots against. Talk about, just the performance overall from Carly Leonard, even though she did end up getting the loss last Wednesday.
Yeah, definitely. She looked good in the loss, was able to constantly bounce back from all three of the goals and constantly keep her team in it right to the end. As the game progressed, it looked like her workload got a little bit less as opposed to Peyton Schlamp. Her workload got a little bit more as the game brought on, but as her workload decreased, she still stayed on top of it. Sometimes if a goaltender doesn't, see that same amount of quantity of shots, it's hard to stay engaged. But Carly definitely looked good and staying engaged in the game and battling to keep her team in it. And as you mentioned, definitely one of those bright young goaltenders in the Saskatchewan Female Hockey League.
Going over to the special teams now, the Wildcats ended up going 0 for 4 on the power play in this game. The Rebels only scored 1 goal on 4 tries on their power play, but for Regina and Swift Current on the girl advantage, talk about how these 2 power plays, looked last Wednesday, knowing that Regina ended up having 1 goal and the Wildcats ended up being snake bitten on their 4 power play tries.
Yeah, definitely was a good power play for Regina, able to capitalize early and get them to the early lead in the first period. And after that, they didn't really need to depend on it too much after they were able to get that first goal. But for Swift Current, as the game progressed, their penalty kill, as they took a couple more penalties throughout the game, progressed and was able to eliminate the chances from Regina on their power play. And then when Swift Current was able to get onto the power play, looked like they were able to generate some chances, mostly coming from the point, often with those shots coming from the top of the circle and trying to generate shots from that way.
Going into the shots here a bit more into depth, and then we'll take a commercial break and talk about our last game here on this segment, Cody. But before we do that, just talking about the shots, of course, as mentioned, 34-33 in favor of Regina. And my apologies, it was Carly Leonard. She ended up making 31 saves on 34 shots against, not 30 saves on 33 shots. But for the Rebels in this game, of course, outshot the Wildcats 13-5 in the first period. After that, as mentioned, the Wildcats outshot the Rebels 12-11 in the second period and 16-10 in the third period. But talk about that. Even though the Wildcats got outshot heavily in that first period, able to shift the tide a bit in the second period and then really, outshoot the Rebels with a 16-10 margin, or a 16-10 total in the third period.
Yeah, definitely looks like after the first period, the Rebels were feeling a little bit, would have been feeling a little bit down on their game, maybe thinking that they would have needed to come out a little bit harder in the second and third, and that's definitely what they did. They were able to put more rubber towards the net than their opponents, and then in the third period, they were able to break through and actually win the period with leading in the shot clock as well. So, their offensive output of putting shots towards the net definitely was the right remedy. Just unfortunately ran out of time on Wednesday there to make the full comeback. Well, they did make the comeback to tie it up 2-2, but unfortunately were able to win the third period, but not able to close out the rest of the game, even though they were able to continually beat the Rebels in the shot clock after the first period.
Yeah, and the comeback bid for Swift Current, obviously a valiant one, but Alexis Petford had something to say about that as she scored the game-winning goal for the Rebels. A outstanding season for Alexis this season and her Regina Rebels, as they are still the first place team in the league. Swift Current is third place in the league at this point in the season. So let's take a commercial break here, Cody. After the commercial break, I'll be back with you to talk about the final game that we're talking about today on Off the Wall with Cody, which featured the Pilot-Mound Hockey Academy U18 Prep Female Buffaloes as they faced off against the RINK Hockey Academy Winnipeg team, the U18 Prep Female team, this past Saturday on the weekend on the network. You're watching Off the Wall with Cody on Coffee with Graeme. Stick with me and Cody Wall for more after this commercial break. Welcome back to Off the Wall with Cody on Coffee with Graeme. Cody Wall joining this edition, as always, of Off the Wall with Cody, joining this week's edition of the segment to talk about the past weekend of games we saw here in the past week on the network. Talk about the Buffaloes U15 Prep Male game as they took on the RHA Winnipeg U15 Prep Male team last Wednesday. Talk about the Swift Current Wildcats and Regina Rebels game that happened last Wednesday as well. But now we'll talk about the only other game that was played here in the past week, and that came on the weekend. A game that was supposed to be the first of two games between the two teams, but due to the bad weather, the game got canceled on Sunday between these two teams. But on Saturday, they played on, and there was some an unfortunate thing that happened in this game, but we won't get into it. But the RHA Winnipeg U18 Prep female team ended up beating the Pilot-Mound Hockey Academy U18 Prep female Buffaloes 6-1. Just for RHA and the Buffaloes in this game, talking about just your thoughts first off on this game, Cody, how this game went along for RHA to be able to get the 6-1 one.
Yeah, RHA definitely looked good throughout that game, but I think Pilot-Mound definitely was battling throughout, able to keep it to a one-goal game going into the second period, and then only allowing one additional goal in the second period. Really a good solid first two periods by the Buffalo to kind of keep in range of RHA, but in that third period, RHA definitely opening up the scoring a bit more, picking up 3 goals in that final period. But a good overall effort by both teams. I know coming into the game, Pilot-Mound did have a bit of a lesser record than RHA, but definitely looked like they were making strides out there and able to find periods of time where they were able to compete with the RINK Hockey Academy.
Yeah, like you mentioned, 2-1 game after the first period. It ended up being a 3-1 game with that one goal that RHA scored in the second period. And of course, they put the game away in the third period with 3 goals to make it a 6-1 final. But talking about the shots, RHA outshot the Buffaloes 42-23, the closest period in shots. The Buffaloes got to matching RHA's total in a single period was the 13-11 total in the third period. But talk about, RHA in this game, how they were able to generate the offense they were able to in terms of getting as many shots as they did, getting as many opportunities on net to score.
Yeah, they definitely were a speedy team, able to generate shots off the rush and then kind of crash the net with those rebounds to create those second and third shot opportunities. Found that Buffaloes were at times finding periods of time where they were getting stuck in their own end, having a little bit of trouble at times to do a good clean breakout to generate some offensive zone time to kind of relieve some of the defensive stress on their goaltender. But when they were able to get into the offensive zone, they were able to generate some quality shots. And the leader from their quality offensive shots came from goal scorer in number 15, Morgan Satie. She was able to, put Pilot-Mound to within 1 in the first period, and as always, is a top offensive player for the U18 Buffalo.
Yeah, and definitely huge for Morgan to be able to get that goal in that game for the Buffaloes. She did end up cutting down that 2-0 lead, or 2-0 lead to 2-1. But talking about another positive for the Buffaloes, talking about how they did not take any penalties in this game, as RHA went 0 for 0 on the power plays. They had no power play opportunities. For the Buffaloes themselves, they had 3 power play opportunities, but could not capitalize on any of them, going for 0 for 3. But talk about the special teams for the Buffaloes. Obviously not having a chance to showcase their PK in this game, which is something they will take all day, every day, as would any team. But talking about their power play in this game, how they were, looking on it, unable to come away with a single goal on those 3 opportunities.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Graham, the best penalty kill is the one that doesn't get out there. But as for power play, I think was a strong suit by the Buffalo. They weren't able to pick up the power play goals, but I do think they were able to generate offense off of the power play. I believe the first penalty to RHA very soon after the power play was done was when the Buffalo were able to kind of cut into that lead there, coming just after the penalty to Revis Constant Cuba for hooking. After that penalty, not too long after, the Buffalo were able to cut into the lead.
Yeah, and just diving into this, obviously another loss for the Buffaloes on their season. But one thing that Brad Platt had to be happy with was just the discipline from his team in this game, not going on the power play or on the penalty kill a single time in this game, having 0 penalties taken. Definitely something as a head coach and as a coaching staff, and really as a team, you got to take some confidence in knowing you could play that disciplined game for a full 60.
Yeah, for sure, and especially when this a team that's coming in is going to be an offensive team. You can kind of tell the girls there that maybe this is a game where we're going to want to play a little bit more disciplined to stay a little bit closer in this game. You don't want to give an offensive team like RHA more opportunities with the man advantage, where they're able to maybe find that open space with being up the one girl advantage.
Yeah, and obviously for the Buffaloes, just needed some offense to go along with their discipline in this game, as Morgan Satie was the only goal scorer for them in this game. But going into RHA, just their scoring, their leader in goals in this game was RINK, number 5. She ended up scoring 2 goals, having 1 assist in this game. There was 5 different goal scorers for RHA in this game. But talk about, RINK, just her ability to put that puck in the back of the net twice, having the most goals out of any player on her team this past Saturday.
Yeah, definitely looked good. She was able to get the scoring started by getting the first one of the night. And, really continued from there, and, just drove the offense. She was able to, after picking up that first quick goal, able to assist on Billy Bernick's goal, about 1 minute and 30 seconds later, and really set the tone for the team. And then as the game progressed, she was able to pick up a goal later on to add to her goal total of her 1-1, with picking up the final goal at 17:06. But really, I felt like Bree was able to generate a lot of offense by using her quick feet and kind of cutting to open areas to generate some good quality shots and finding some open space in the slot to put the puck on net.
We'll end off with this one here. This question for you, Cody. River Johnston got the start in the net for the Buffaloes. She's had a pretty good season this season as well. as Julie Ducharme, even though the numbers might not show that. These are two goaltenders that have been asked to do a lot this season, facing the shots that they have. River Johnston ended up saving 36 shots on 42 shots against. Just talk about her performance. Obviously coming away with the loss in this game along with the rest of the Buffaloes, but definitely being able to make 36 saves, always huge when you're able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Both goaltenders, like you said, very competent, very good. And sometimes when you're having a season where you're having a losing season, sometimes you'll find yourself in games where you're looking for stuff to battle for. And I felt like Nicole Johnson really was battling through the game, really was looking to improve on every shot, and didn't look like she was giving up any easy ones for RHA on Saturday afternoon.
Well, it is too bad these two teams were not able to play this past Sunday 2 days ago due to the snow canceling the game. Would have been interesting to see, could the Buffaloes potentially have made it an even closer one, or potentially got the win on Sunday, but it was just not meant to be with the weather. But the Buffaloes U18 prep female team, they will be in action next up on February 18th, coming up soon, against the Delta U17 team at 12:15 p.m. at the South Okanagan Event Center in Penticton, BC. But Cody, always great to have you here on Off the Wall with Cody on these Tuesday morning episodes, man. I know that you're a busy man and got to get some stuff done today, so I'll let you go now and enjoy the rest of your day, Cody. And until next Tuesday when we do it all again, man, I'll see you then.
Thanks for having me on, Graeme, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Of course, Cody. Cody Wall here on Off the Wall with Cody on this Tuesday morning edition of Coffee with Graeme. Cody Wall joining me for another Tuesday here on Off the Wall with Cody. Can't wait to do it with Cody again next week, as we will break down some more matchups that will be happening on the network this week and weekend coming up. But yeah, it is time to go to another commercial break, and then I will finish off today's edition of Coffee with Graeme with League Report. Will I get through all the leagues before 12 p.m. is when this show is supposed to end, or when this show will end? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm going to regroup, collect my thoughts, and come back with an edition of League Report here on Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. Stick around, folks.
Welcome to Pilot-Mound Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot-Mound Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.
Welcome back to Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. Cody Wall joined Off the Wall with Cody most recently on this edition of the show. Special thanks to Cody for coming on and doing another edition of that segment, and as well to Ferdi Nelissen for coming on and talking about the MFHL playoffs, his keys and his opinion for what all 8 teams in the league will need to do to have a chance to win a championship. And me and Ferdi also gave our playoff picks, our playoff bracket, which was identical, bang on, except for the prediction I had of Central Plains beating Westman in 5 games. He has 4 games, and honestly, I think that is a strong possibility as well. But it will be interesting in the MFHL. And speaking of the MFHL, it is time for today's edition of League Report. And now it is time to go into the scores of the MFHL for the final weekend of games, as well as the stats from around the league, what all players finished with in the top 5, which players finished in the top 5 for points, as well as showing you guys. I'll show you guys the playoff schedule as well in the MFHL. What is coming up in the next 3 days? Well, today and the next 2 days. But yeah, let's share the screen here, and then we can get going on league report. Don't have much time for all these leagues, to be honest, to talk about, but we'll see how much I get through here in the next little while. So let's make this a bit bigger here, and we're off. So taking a look at the past weekend of games in the MFHL, while on Friday saw the Central Plains Capitals winning in a high-scoring affair against the Yellowhead Chiefs, 9-7. Very strong game offensively for the Central Plains Capitals. In that one, of course, the Winnipeg Ice, after having some time off from their last matchups, ended up winning against the Interlake Lightning 4-1. And then moving into the last game that was played on Friday night, of course, the Pembina Valley Hawks winning in that one in a close 5-4 game over the Eastman Selects. Moving into Saturday's action, the Winnipeg Avs in their final game of the season beat the number 2 team in the league in the Yellowhead Chiefs 4-1. The Westman Wildcats ended up best in the Eastman Selects 3-1, and the Interlake Lightning ended up getting a huge win over the Central Plains Capitals for their confidence, 4-3 in overtime. Looking into Sunday's action on Super Bowl Sunday, well, there were 2 pretty close games, gotta say. And Interlake with a huge 1-0 shootout win over the Westman Wildcats to finish their season on a very strong note. Taking a look at the Winnipeg Ice, they ended up falling 3-1 to the Pembina Valley Hawks. Of course, that will be a matchup that will happen in the first round in the MFHL. Now, taking a look at the final standings here in the MFHL, as you can see, the Winnipeg Avs, best team in the league with a 25-2-1 record. The Yellowhead Chiefs finished in second place with a 21-7 record, 21-7 record. The Westman Wildcats played one less game than all teams except for the Interlake Lightning, as that matchup for Westman and Interlake, whatever their last game was, did not end up happening. But the Westman Wildcats finished with a 17-8-2 record on the season. The Winnipeg Ice finished with a 15-10-3 record to finish 4th place. The Pembina Valley Hawks ended up finishing 500 on their season with a 14-14 record. And then taking a look at Central Plains, a 9-14-5 record, making them the 6th place team in the league. The Eastman Selects finished with a 6-20-2 record. They are 7th in the league, of course, and the Interlake Lightning in last place with one less game played than everybody in the league except for the Westman Wildcats with a 4-23 record. Now, taking a look at the final stats leaders of this season that we're going to be doing, well, Nora Collins had a heck of a year, and she ended up breaking 50 points this season. She ended up having 54 points in 26 games played. Maya Eamon was 2nd in the league in points, tied with Kaylin Wisner, both of them having 42. Abby Bordadui was 4th in points with 37, and Hannah Rake for the Yellowhead Chiefs in 5th with 36 points in 28 games. Taking a look at the goal leaders now in the MFHL for the season, none other than Nora Collins on top with 37 goals on the year. Danica Botterill finishing with a goal per game with 23 goals in 23 games played. Abby Bordadui with 22 goals in 26 games played, in 28 games played, Abby Bordadui played 22 goals. And then tied with her in goals was Maya Eamon with the exact same number of games played with 22. And then Darby Poole finishes top 5 in the league in goals for the Yellowhead Chiefs with 21 goals in 28 games. Taking a look at the dish masters, the assist leaders. I don't know why I just called them dish masters. I don't know. I tried to get a bit cute with that one, I guess. But Kaylin Wisner with 29 assists in 28 games, over an assist per game for her this season. Congratulations to her. Courtney Bays, her teammate, with 4 less assists than her and 1 less game played with 25 assists and 27 games played. Louise Ferguson, the league's top defenseman in terms of points this season with 22 assists in 28 games played. Hannah Rake had 21 assists Hannah Rake had 22 assists. I'm getting ahead of myself here with Taylor Bell's totals, but 22 assists in 28 games for Hannah Rake, tied with her teammate in Louise Ferguson. And then Taylor Bell moving into the top 5 for assists on the season, edging out Maya Eamon in that regard with 21 assists in 28 games played. Now, taking a look into the wins leaders in the league, wait for this to load. And then, here it is. So Jenna Gertson finished with the most wins out of any goaltender in the league this season in the MFHL with 14 wins, only 1 loss on her season and 15 games played. Also had 4 shutouts. In second, tied for second, there's 2. It's Grace Glover and Sydney McMullen, both with 12 wins on the season and the exact same amount of games played. The only difference is that Sydney McMullen ended up with the league tie for shutouts with 4 shutouts on her season. Yanina Karitonovich for the Winnipeg Avros, 11 wins, 2 losses on the year. She's 4th in the league in wins. She had a shutout as well. And then another goaltender who had a shutout for the Yellowhead Chiefs was Natalie Rampton with a 9-win season, only 3 losses on her resume this year. Now, taking a look at the playoff matchups here in the MFHL coming up, there is going to be 2 games played tonight, 1 game played tomorrow, and I'm not sure for Thursday, but taking a look at it here, it is the Interlake Lightning going into Seven Oaks Arena at 7 p.m. tonight to play the Winnipeg Avros to start off their series. The first place team Avros going up against the number 8 seed, the Lightning, and the number 2 seeded Yellowhead Chiefs at home at Shoal Lake, a place where they absolutely love to play, going up against the number 7 seed, the Eastman Slugs, at 7:30 p.m. at Shoal Lake tonight. And now going into tomorrow's game, you guys can see it here. It's the Central Plains Capitals going to Hartney to play against the Westman Wildcats at 7:30 p.m. And then moving in to Thursday's action, and I'll most likely report on this on Thursday as well, but the Pembina Valley Hawks going into the Bell MTS Iceplex at 7 p.m. to face off against the Winnipeg Ice. The Yellowhead Chiefs will play in their second game of the playoffs on the road at the Niverville Recreation Center against the Eastman Selects at 7:45, and then the Winnipeg Avros and Interlake Lightning will be in VMSC Stonewall, that arena, at 7:45 p.m. on Thursday night. So now moving along, making some pretty good time right now. Let's keep it going, folks. Let's move into the past week and weekend of games in the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League. As reported already, the Notre Dame Hounds ended up winning 4-1 on the road against the Weyburn Goldwings. Last Wednesday, the Regina Rebels ended up winning 3-2 over the Swift Current Wildcats last Wednesday as well. On Thursday, Prince Albert, the Northern Bears, ended up winning 2-0 over the Battleford Sharks. Going into Friday's action, Swift Current with a 4-0 win over Weyburn. A triple header on Saturday, which saw Swift Current winning in a close matchup against the Weyburn Goldwings 3-2. Of course, Swift Current played their second road game of the weekend against Weyburn. And looking at Regina, they ended up winning 6-0 over the Sharks, the Rebels did. And the Notre Dame Hounds winning in a close matchup against the Saskatoon Stars, 2-1. Moving into Sunday's action, the Notre Dame Hounds took care of business against the Saskatoon Stars, making it a less close game by the score, 7-3 win for the Notre Dame Hounds. The Regina Rebels with an 8-1 win over the Battleford Sharks as well. Taking a look at the standings in the leagues now. In the league now, not the leagues. This is only one league, right? So taking a look at it, well, the Regina Rebels are now winners of their last 4 games. They are still the first place team in the league, although Notre Dame does have 6 games in hand on them. But Notre Dame, the hottest team in the league right now with 11 straight victories. Swift Current in third place, of course, with 2 straight wins for themselves. The Saskatoon Stars, they've been playing some close hockey games, but in the last 3 games, they have lost all 3, as you can see. Prince Albert snapping a losing streak, or I'm not sure if how many games they were losing before that. They're currently on a 1-game winning streak. And for the Battleford Sharks, well, their season in the last 10 games has went South, looking at their record, losers of their last 10 in a row. And for the Weyburn Gold Wings, they've lost 6 games in a row, and they are in last place in the league. Now, taking a look at the statistics in the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League, well, you guessed it, Alexis Petford still in first in points by a large margin, 74 points in 27 games played. Greta Henderson, Ali Gerard, Megan Hayhurst, the other 3 Rebels players in the top 4 for points. And then Ryan Parrott has now moved in to the top 5 for points in the league in the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League with 34 points in 22 games played. That is 4 more than Jersey Watain, who has 4 more games played than her, also 4 more than Kiana McKibben, who is a teammate of Ryan Parrott, who has 1 less game played than Parrott. But taking a look at the goal leaders now, in the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League, Alexis Petford leads the league with 37 goals in 27 games played. Behind her by a large margin again is Greta Henderson with 22 goals. Taking a look at Megan Hayhurst in third for the league in goals with 18 in 28 games played. And taking a look at Jersey Watain, she is 4th in the league in goals, 1 behind Megan Hayhurst with 2 games in hand with 17 goals. And then Avery Bayros with 16 goals in 24 games played. Taking a look at the assist leaders now in the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League, it is Alexis Petford in front, 37 assists in 27 games played. Ali Gerard in second with 28 assists, 37 assists for Alexis Petford, 25 assists for Greta Henderson in 27 games played, 20 assists for Megan Hayhurst in 28 games played, and tied with her with 6 games in hand on her is Ryan Parrott with 30 assists in 22 games played. And then looking at who's tied with her is Brooklyn Nemegers. Nemegers? I forget how to pronounce her name. My apologies to Brooklyn. But she is also tied for assist with Ryan Parrott. And folks, I think I might need glasses because it is hard for me to see the screen. And I do not want to keep screwing up the numbers like I do. I wanted to be more fluent, so I might have to look into getting a pair of glasses. You might see me with glasses at some point. That would be a different look, hey? Leave a comment down below if you'd like to see that, maybe, potentially. I'm not sure. It's in the works at this point. But I can see this more clearly now, and it is clear that Chloe Sorensen is got a 1-win advantage on Carly Leonard of the Swift Current Wildcats. Chloe Sorensen with 12 wins on the season, also 5 shutouts as well. Absolutely outstanding. Carly Leonard has 11 wins on the season, only 3 losses and 2 shutouts. Eva Filipova for Notre Dame, the Hounds, well, 3 shutouts for her. She's got 10 wins, also tied with her teammate in Bailey Lindsay for wins. Bailey Lindsay has not yet lost a game in the league. She's also got 2 shutouts, and she's also got an assist. Only other goaltender that I can see here, well, the only other 2 are Emma Backman and Michaela Crispin, who also have an assist. So that's pretty cool that they keep track of that. But Peyton Schlamp is the other goaltender that is tied with 10 wins with Filipova and Lindsay. Schlamp has 10 wins on her season and 4 shutouts as well. Taking a look into the MMJHL now. Taking a look at the schedule in the league. I got to speed it up here, folks. I am running out of time, so I apologize if I don't get to absolutely everything that I talk about. Still got to close the show as well today, but taking a look at the past schedule in the league, in the MMJHL, we will go all the way back to February 9th. And just to give everyone, the update on these games, as I already did report on these games, the Fort Garry game and the Victorias game, but did not have a final score. The St. Vital Victorias, junior Victorias, we'll go with Thursday first, I guess, but a 3-2 overtime win over the Transcona Railer Express. A big win for St. Vital on their season at this point as they continue to separate themselves from the fifth place team, the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, in the standings. The night before, a game that ended up getting postponed. This one will be rescheduled, but at this point, it is a 2-1 lead in that game for the Fort Garry Twins. Going into Friday's action, there was a quadruple header in the league. 8 teams in action, and it was the Charleswood Hawks beating the Raiders Junior Hockey Club 5-2 on home ice. The St. James Junior Canucks ended up winning 7-4 over the River East Royal Knights. The Pembina Valley Twisters, oh man, what a whopping win for them, a whooping, a spanking they laid on the St. Boniface Rials 11-3. And then the Transcona Railer Express, well, at home, taking care of business, winning 7-1 over the Stonewall Jets. Moving into Saturday's action, it was the Pembina Valley Twisters winning in a close one against the Fort Garry Twins 4-3. That game not going to overtime, of course, or extra time, but a clean regulation victory win for the Pembina Valley Twisters 4-3 over the Fort Garry Twins. Saw the Raiders Junior Hockey Club on Sunday's action winning 6-3 over the Stonewall Jets. The Transcona Railer Express heading into Southdale Arena and beating the St. Boniface Rials 5-1. Now, taking a look at the updated standings in the league, not much has changed. I will show it to you guys quickly, however, but it is still St. James in first place in the league. We will zoom in a bit here to give you a better view. But it is the St. James Junior Canucks in first place still with 62 points. Transcona is 3 points behind them with one more game played than them. The Pembina Valley Twisters 3 points behind the Railer Express with a game in hand on them, and then drop off in the standings after that a bit. The St. Vital Junior Victorias, of course, in fourth place, and then there's a drop off after that from the Raiders Junior Hockey Club to the St. Vital Junior Victorias. River East is 5 points behind the Raiders Junior Hockey Club, and of course Fort Garry is still 2 points away from taking sixth place in the league at this point with 4 games in hand on both Charleswood, the team in front of them, the River East Royal Knights, and they have 4 games in hand with the team that they're tied with right now in the Charleswood Hawks, and of course Stonewall and St. Boniface, both teams, their playoff hopes looking pretty grim right now. Taking a look at the statistics, only got 8 minutes left here to do this, so we will try to get through it as quickly as possible, but I won't waste any time here. TJ Matsiushevsky in the league lead for points with 71 points in 37 games played. He's got 5 more games played than Curtis Luke, but 6 more points than him. Curtis Luke, of course, second in the league in points. Third is Connor Grunston. Fourth is Tyrone Willen, and fifth is Jace Kennedy III. Wow, that's a name that has popped up here. Wow, congratulations to Kennedy III, Jace Kennedy III, for being top 5 in points now at this point in the season. Taking a look at goals here, folks. It is Curtis Luke leading the league in goals. TJ Matsiushevsky with 29 goals for himself. Griffin Height with 27 goals. Connor Grunston with 25 goals, tied with Ethan Lewis. And that rounds out the top 5. Taking a look into the assist leaders now in the league. It's TJ Matsiushevsky with 42 assists in 37 games played, 37 assists in 37 games played for Connor Grunston, 35 assists in 32 games played for Curtis Luke, Rory Neal with 34 assists in 34 games played, and Ben Coppinger tied with Matthew Smith to round out the top 5 with 31 assists for Ben and Matthew Smith, even though Ben has 3 less games played than Smith on the season. Now taking a look at the goaltending leaders here in the league. Taking a look at the wins. It is Noah Gilbert still in front with 19 wins on the season. He is knocking on the door of getting 20. Dylan Arnold and Justin Powers, only a win separating these two goaltenders that play on the same team. Arnold with 15, Justin Powers with 14, Martin Gagnon with 14 wins as well. And then rounding out the top 5 is Miles Minor with 13 wins for the Fort Garry Twins. Now, I'm not going to show you guys the scores from the Winnipeg High School Hockey League, and also the Winnipeg Women's High School Hockey League found out today that their playoffs won't be starting up until next week, but I will be updating you guys on that coming up. In the next edition of Coffee with Graeme. But we will make this very quick here. I only got 5 minutes left, folks, so let's make it good here. Looking into the past week of scores in the Zone 4 High School Hockey League. We will go with February 10th. It was the W.C. Miller Aces winning 6-3 over the Mountain Mustangs. The Mountain Mustangs a day later ended up going to Morris and beating the Morris Mavericks 6-3. It was the Morden Thunder winning in a shootout 3-2 over the PCI Trojans. The PMHA Tigers with an 8-0 win over the GVSD hockey team on February 13th. And taking a look into the other February 13th game that was played, out of the 3, the Carmen Cougars winning 8-1 over the Morris Mavericks. The games played yesterday, the Morris Mavericks winning over the GVSD hockey team 6-4. And then taking a look at the Carmen Cougars, they ended up winning in a shootout against the Morden Thunder 4-3. Now we'll take a look at the standings in this league here coming up, and it is the Carmen Cougars with 18-3 record. They are the number 1 team in the league by 1 point. The PCI Trojans with a 35-point season so far, 17-3-1 record. They are in second place. And then after that, there is a drop-off. WC, the Miller Aces, with a 28-point season so far, 14-8 on the year. The Mountain Mustangs with a 12-10 record. They have 25 points, 3 points behind the WC Miller Aces. Mountain also has 1 OT loss on the season. And then the Morden Thunder with 3 OT losses on their year, going along with an 11-10 record, tied with the Mountain Mustangs in the standings for points with 25. PMHA, the Tigers, with a 12-9 record this season, 24 points on their year. They are 1 point back each of Mountain and Morden for tying them in the standings. And then after that, the Morris Mavericks, quite a bit of a drop off with 8 points on the season, only a 4-17 record and a 2-8 record for the GVC Zodiacs at a 2-8 record on the season for 4 points. So I am not going to be able to show you guys the stats leaders from the Zone 4 High School Hockey League today, because if I do that, I run out of time, and we do got to keep on schedule here on ASTV. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you guys the stat leaders coming up next episode from the Zone 4 High School Hockey League. And I am also going to give you guys the results from the Winnipeg High School Hockey League, the playoffs that started yesterday. And I can't report on any playoff games from the the Winnipeg Women's High School Hockey League yet, but I will show you guys how that playoff format will roll out in the league. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's edition of League Report. Leave a like, a comment, a reaction if you did. But I got to make this quick, folks. Fun time here on the show today. Want to give a special thanks to Ferdi Nelissen and Cody Wall once again for coming on the show and talking some good old hockey. MFHL playoffs start tonight, so that is very exciting as well. Happy I had Ferdi on the show. But a special thanks to you, the viewer, for tuning into today's edition of the show, and also special thanks to our sponsors for sponsoring another edition of Coffee with Graeme in Case Financial Group, AETI, Evolve Green, Pilot-Mound Hockey Academy, and Toby Hockey. I will be back on the network coming up for Coffee with Graeme, coming up on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Time. You can catch that episode on our Facebook at ASTV Productions, on our Twitter at Amateur Sports TV, or on our website at astvproductions.com. Also, be sure to wait for the guest list that will be released on Thursday morning all across our social media pages, on our on our Instagram at ASTV Productions, our Facebook at ASTV Productions, and our Twitter as well. But until Thursday night, folks, I've been your host of Coffee with Graeme Forsyth, signing off now. Peace out, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe out there and stay warm as well. Take care, everybody.